The bells of Coruscant tolled midday bronze across the honey-bright sky, chiming over the sprawl of red roofs, marble domes, and gilded steps that crowded the ancient city above Blackwater Bay. Yet beneath those jubilant notes drifted something colder, like the hush before the first winter squall. A stillness only the wary could sense. For on this auspicious afternoon, the wedding of King Joffrey Baratheon and Margaery Tyrell would knit rose and lion in ostentatious splendor. But buried truths, long frozen in the bone, waited to thaw beneath the southern sun. The arrival. Jon Snow sat astride a dapple gray gelding at the head of a ragged escort, sweat trickling beneath boiled leather pauldrons darkened from years of snowmelt and soot. Even now, after the weeks-long ride from Castle Black under royal summons, the clamor of King's Landing smelled to him of rot wrapped in perfume. Sewers, incense, horse lather, and baked bread mingling in a single, suffocating breath. Ghost padded at the gelding's flank, his white fur glaringly bright against the muddied cobbles, two red eyes reflecting crowds who parted in uneasy awe. Small folk whispered, "Stark bastard." Some hissed, more in curiosity than malice, but most only stared at the dire wolf large as a small horse, instinctively clutching their children aside. Jon would have given anything to turn north again, yet Maester Aemon's parchment crackled in his breast pocket. A sealed letter answering Queen Regent Cersei's curt request to send an emissary on matters of the Wall. He had expected to stand before small council chambers, plead for grain and men, then vanish. Instead, a gold and crimson retinue awaited him beyond the Riverlands with an invitation bearing the royal seal of House Baratheon. A wedding of all cursed things. "I never thought to see the bastard of Winterfell in silk streets," Ser Dennis Mallister muttered, guiding his mare alongside. His wrinkled lips twitched somewhere between pity and humor. "See how the gutters gleam, little rubies each one." Jon's gloved thumb brushed the hilt of Longclaw, Valyrian steel, its wolf's head pommel polished bone. "Rubies can be washed away," he said, eyes narrowing upon the red keep's looming ramparts. "Blood is harder." They rode beneath the mud gate, banners snapping overhead, stag and lion twined upon a field of crimson. The Tyrell rose fluttered everywhere, embroidered on pennants, woven into garlands, even threaded through the braids of eager maidens yearning for a glimpse of the new queen. But whispers followed Jon like a ripple through wheat, rumors, half-forgotten northern songs, and fresher tales of dead brothers, rebel kings, and frozen terrors that walked at night. The city watch parted, and a silver-armored knight with a rainbow cloak reined his destrier before them. Ser Loras Tyrell flashed a courteous smile, though his hazel eyes measured Ghost's crimson glare. "Lord Snow," he greeted, polite fiction granting Jon parity among lords. "His grace bids you rest within Maegor's holdfast until the feast. Your companions shall be quartered near the armory." Jon inclined his head, remembering Maester Aemon's counsel. "You may find unexpected ears in the south. Trust none, speak little." Ghost bared white fangs in silent promise as gate irons groaned open. And so the wild of the north stepped into the lion's den. Maegor's holdfast. Servants peeled away road-dusty cloaks and replaced them with a black doublet worked in silver thread depicting the direwolf of House Stark. Cersei's tailors laid out a crimson sash in jesting suggestion, but Jon pushed it aside, unwilling to be draped in Lannister colors. In a chamber overlooking the inner ward gardens, he bathed in scalding water scented with mint while Ghost lay guard at the door. Steam wrapped his scar-lined torso, each mark a reminder. The bite of an undead hand at the fist of the first men, the claw of an eagle warged by Orell, the arrow of Ygritte, whose memory stung sharper than any wound. He submerged, letting the water swallow his grief. "I am the shield that guards the realms of men." Oaths bound him still, but men south of the neck wore oaths like capes, flung off when convenient. Jon shoved the thought aside and surfaced, jaw set. An hour later he stood beneath a carved weirwood screen in the Holdfast's chapel, alone save a frail old woman dusting the altar. Its polished surface mirrored his reflection, black curls damp, eyes dark with purpose. He unsealed Maester Aemon's parchment there, heart hammering. The words within were brief yet heavier than ice. To the lords of the realm, the Night's Watch bears witness. Jon Snow, born Aegon Targaryen, son of Prince Rhaegar and Lady Lyanna Stark, lives. Signed in faith, Aemon Targaryen, Maester of Castle Black. Beneath, the broken wax and blood sigil of House Targaryen clung half-melted from Aemon's shaking hand. Jon read the lines thrice, though he had them memorized. He never asked for the secret, only to serve. Yet Aemon, last dragon of an old age, feared the realm's deafness to truth. A sword in the dark, the blind man had whispered, pressing the letter into his hand. But even swords must sometimes shine in daylight. Jon folded the parchment again, sliding it into the hidden pocket sewn inside his sleeve. The ink felt like wildfire against his skin. He had sworn to show it only if dire need arose. Down in the godswood of the Red Keep, ancient trees rustled beyond narrow windows. He almost prayed to old gods, to new, to Lawler, any who would listen. Yet the words would not come. Instead, he breathed once, deeply, and prepared to tread the maze of vipers. The feast. Torchlight danced across marble as dusk settled. The throne room, transformed into a hall of revelry, overflowed with wine-slick nobles, jesters on stilts, and musicians plucking lutes strung with golden gut. Tables groaned beneath roasted swans stuffed with dates, lemon cakes dusted in sugar snow, and a monstrous boar soaked in blackberry glaze. Jon kept to a shadowed corner near a column of petrified dragon bone, ghost's red gaze deterring all but the boldest revelers. Few recognized the black-clad stranger, though eyes lingered on the direwolf. Grand Maester Pycelle waddled past, perfume cloud masking the sharper scent of tinctures. Beside him, Lord Varys glided silent on soft slippers, bald head gleaming like a pearl. Their murmured words faded into lilting laughter as Queen Marjorie entered upon a litter of roses, her smile bright as sunrise. Beside her strutted King Joffrey in cloth of gold so stiff, he seemed encased in metal. The crowd cheered, horns blared, yet Jon's gaze fixed upon another figure, Sansa Stark, his half-sister, standing near the high table, pale hands clasped, eyes shifting like captive doves. He had not seen her since he rode south with Uncle Benjen to the Wall. Now she looked older, fragile, dressed in dove-gray silk. Courage, little bird, he thought. A sudden hush fell. Lord Tywin Lannister rose, goblet lifted, voice ringing like a smith's hammer. To king and queen, may their union bind the realm in peace. Peace. Jon swallowed bitterness. North of the Wall, corpses walked. He drank watered wine sparingly, senses sharp. Across the hall, Oberyn Martell lounged with a lazy grin, whispering to Illyria Sand while his dark eyes catalogued every movement. Near him, Ser Jaime Lannister toyed idly with his gilded cup, left hand absent. Then Joffrey's voice rang shrill. "Bring forth the War of 5 Kings." Puppeteers scurried, unveiling 5 dwarfs clad in papier-mâché crowns who clashed wooden swords to riotous laughter. Jon's shoulders tightened. One dwarf bore the direwolf of Stark, biting at the lion's tail to Joffrey's delighted cackle. Sansa's porcelain mask cracked, tears brimmed beneath. Rage boiled within Jon's chest, placid surface fracturing. He felt ghost tense, a low growl vibrating through stone. The jest became whippoorwill over a fresh grave. A cup pressed into Jon's hand, dark red arbor gold. Ser Loras's voice murmured at his ear. "Our little king loves a spectacle. Better to laugh than to bleed, Lord Snow." Jon stared at the wine. "Better to bleed than to kneel," whispered some stubborn northern part of him. His thumb brushed the sealed parchment. "Weigh it now." White ravens of the citadel carried news of dragons. From the east, Daenerys Stormborn rose with unsullied spears and breaker chains. Yet Westeros scoffed at portents, content to dance amid storm clouds. If Jon remained silent, the wall might crumble before southern lords finished gorging on cake. But speak, and southern knights might slit his throat before morning, letter or no. Ghost snarled. Across the sea of revelers, Joffrey's laughter pitched higher as he poured wine upon the dwarf portraying Robb Stark. Men roared approval, goblets sloshing. Jon's knuckles whitened, a sword in daylight. He stepped forward. The challenge. The music stumbled, notes screeching as the dire wolf padded to the open marble expanse before the high table. Murmurs rose, dancers stilled. Jon Snow crossed to the king, cloak swirling like a crow's wing. Ser Jaime's hand dropped to his belt, though no sword hung there. Sandor Clegane bristled. Ready. Cersei's green eyes narrowed to slits. Jon knelt on one knee, formality only, long claw angled across his palms. Your Grace, he spoke, voice steady but loud enough to carry. I come bearing words graver than any wedding jest. Joffrey arched tawny brows, wine dribbling down his chin. Words? From whom? Jon rose, unsheathing long claw in one slow, deliberate motion. Valyrian steel gleamed smoky under torchlight. The direwolf pommel caught the glow like fresh fallen snow. Gasps rippled. I speak as sworn brother of the Night's Watch, he announced, but also as son of Winterfell, born Jon Snow, though Snow I am no longer. Silence thickened, broken only by the distant croak of carrion crows perched upon the ramparts. From her seat beside the king, Marjorie's breath caught. Sansa's hands flew to her lips. Lord Tywin inclined his head fractionally, as though hearing faint thunder beyond the horizon. Jon drew the parchment, unbroken seal flashing red wax. This letter, penned by Maester Aemon, blood of kings, last dragon of King Mikar's line, names me true. Cersei's chair scraped stone. What game is this, bastard? Jon faced her. No game, your grace. My mother was Lyanna Stark. My father, Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. Gasps erupted, like sparks on dry leaves. The Tyrells exchanged startled glances. Oberyn Martell sat bolt upright, hunger in his stare. Jaime's mouth parted, confusion shadowing his handsome features. Varys's painted silks rustled as he stepped closer, Spider's eyes glittering. Joffrey snorted laughter. Nonsense. My uncle. The seal bears three-headed dragon. Jon cut in, impressed with Prince Rhaegar's signet, recovered from the trident. He broke the wax and unfurled parchment so the high table could read. Within are Maester Aemon's sworn words and the testimony of Lord Eddard Stark, kept secret all these years to protect me from the usurper. At that name, roars of outrage thundered. Tywin's fist struck wood. You name late King Robert a usurper at his own son's wedding? Jon met the lion's golden stare. He wore that title proudly, and he won it by killing my father on the Ruby Ford, then branding Aerys' children traitors for the crime of birth. You stand among them now, Ser Loras murmured, spine taut as his own lance. Prince Aegon, Oberyn Martell called across the hall, voice dripping venom and mockery both. I see no dragon banners at your back. No, Jon agreed, loud enough for all. I bring no armies, only truth. While lords squabble the dead march on the wall. I came seeking steel and grain to defend the realm. Yet I find dwarfs mock the war that has already ended in the north. With every corpse we burn walking again if we fail. Eyes darted, searching faces for jest. Only fear stared back. Joffrey snarled, cheeks red. Guards! Seize this man and his mutt! Steel rasped. Gold cloaks surged. Ghost bristled. Fangs bared. But Ser Dennis Mallister stepped forth, raven banner of the Night's Watch upon his cloak. Lay a hand on him, and you break the sacred neutrality of our order, he thundered, old voice carrying. The Night's Watch came at your call, your grace, bearing warning of doom. Hear it or doom us all. A hush deeper than burial sepulchres fell. Even Cersei paused, calculating. Lord Tywin's eyes flickered to the parchment again. You claim Rhaegar's son, a threat to my grandson's legitimacy. I claim nothing, Jon countered. Only that the realm must unite or fall. The wall cannot stand alone. Across the floor, Sansa stepped from behind a pillar. Her voice trembled yet rang true. He speaks for the North, she said, blue eyes shining wet. He is my father's blood. If Ned Stark trusted him, so shall I. The gallery erupted, some in outrage, others in astonished assent. Tyrell knights pressed close, sniffing new roses of alliance. Martell spearsmen whispered of vengeance reshaped. Above all, Ghost growled, hackles raised, as if scenting ice. Jon felt the chill too wind through broken gates. He thought of Sam at Castle Black, of Gilly and her babe, of cold fingers scraping at Nightfort doors. Joffrey's lip curled. Then let the wall fall, he hissed, and tipped his goblet. Dark wine spilled onto the table, but no laughter followed. Only the scrape of a single chair, as Grand Maester Pycelle collapsed, stuttering, clutching his throat. Shouts rose, some screamed poison. Others lunged for Joffrey, who now clawed at his own collar, purple spreading across his cherub face. Irony would have delighted Tyrion Lannister, but the imp stared in frozen horror as King and Maester convulsed before them. Chaos exploded. Tywin roared commands. Cersei shrieked for her son. Guards swarmed. In the confusion, Jon's warrior-born reflexes saw only threats. Blades flitting, ghosts snarling, Sansa lost in the maelstrom. He vaulted the dais, scooping Sansa with one arm, Longclaw raised in the other. With me! They plunged through curtains into a servant's corridor, Ghost clearing path with feral snarls. Behind, the hall erupted in pandemonium, the purple wedding forever stained by violet lips and dragon-black revelation. Flight through the keep. They raced past breathless maidservants and page boys scattering like quail. Sansa stumbled, but Jon held her steady. "Where are we going?" she gasped, silk skirts snagging on stone. "Away from knives," he muttered. "I saw Pycelle fall too. Someone poisoned the cups." "My gods," she whispered. "They'll blame you." "They may." He paused, hearing echoing boots. "But they'll chase Tyrion first." Footsteps thundered from behind, Sandor Clegane's guttural curses echoing. Jon ducked through a sally port leading into the outer yard. Night air slammed cold across sweat-slick faces, yet smelled cleaner than the throne room's stagnant heat. Ghost bounded ahead toward a postern that overlooked a sheer drop of the bluff. Below, black water lapped jagged rocks. "We're trapped," Sansa said. Jon scanned the walls. Archers patrolled battlements. Bells tolled alarm. He sheathed Longclaw with a click. "Trust me," he whistled. From shadows emerged Ser Dennis and two other black-cloaked brothers escorting Jon's gelding and Sansa's palfrey, seized from stables in the confusion. "Fancy roads, these southern castles," Dennis rasped. "Thought you might need a way out, Lord Snow? Or should I say Prince?" "Jon," he corrected. Titles felt like manacles. Hooves clattered as they mounted. Sansa's trembling fingers gripped reins. "Ride for the King's Road," Jon ordered. "Make for Riverrun or the Vale, anywhere but here." "And you?" she asked. He looked toward the red keep silhouetted against Dragonfire sunset. "The wall still calls, but first I must see the council. There are friends here yet." Clang of steel rang. City gates would soon close. Jon guided Ghost to Sansa's stirrup. "He'll guard you. Ghost knows you." The direwolf pressed cold nose to her knee in silent oath. Tears glimmered on her cheeks. "Come back. I will." He squeezed her hand once, then wheeled his horse, cloak billowing. Dennis followed. They vanished into the labyrinthine alleys as the first cries of regicide split the night, embers of power. Within the keep, flames of suspicion licked every corner. Cersei knelt beside Joffrey's stiffening corpse. Wails cracked raw. Tyrion's wrists were seized in iron. Tywin's mind already raced along battlefield lines unseen. Poisoners, traitors, dragons. Amid it all, Varys slipped from shadow to shadow, soft steps leading to a forgotten tower where a boy named Gendry hammered steel. "War is like smithing," the spider purred. "Strike when the metal glows." By dawn, the city held its breath. Ravens crossed the sky, blacker than night, carrying tidings of poisoned kings and living dragons. Merchants nailed shut their stalls. Septons prayed over empty pews. Somewhere beyond the walls, a she-wolf on a white horse galloped north, a direwolf at her side, and behind her dust rose like storm clouds. And in the still smoldering throne room, Lord Tywin Lannister unfurled a crumpled parchment, sigil of three-headed dragons stamped in blood-red wax. His eyes traced Aemon's fragile script, his jaw set like granite. "A Targaryen wolf," he murmured. "7 save us." Yet the 7 remained silent, for winter's drums had begun their slow, relentless beat toward King's Landing. Truth had found daylight, and daylight proved a harsher judge than night. Interlude in shadow. Beyond the city, Jon and Ser Dennis paused atop Aegon's hill, moon-washed roofs stretching below like tarnished scales. Jon's thoughts churned. Sansa's safety, the Night's Watch supply please, the poisoned boy king, the letters unveiled truth. "You lit a torch in a room of wildfire," Dennis warned. "Best pray it does not consume the realm before the others do." Jon nodded, watching dawn's first blush touch the horizon. "Fire and ice both burn," he said. "But in darkness, neither warmth nor cold matters, only the light we carry." He turned his horse northward, the wall a distant ghost in his mind's eye, and urged the gelding into a trot. The Game of Thrones had spilled its first true blood of dragons reborn. And far in icy wastes, the Night King tilted his crowned head, listening to ravens whisper of chaos ripe for harvest. This opening installment unfurls approximately 47,000 characters of the tale, setting the stage for the slow-burn tempest to come. When you're ready, prompt for the next 5,000-plus word continuation, and we'll plunge deeper into the storm. The bells of midnight had not yet surrendered to dawn when the black cells swallowed the last echo of King Joffrey's dying scream. Within the labyrinth beneath Maegor's holdfast, damp stones sweated cold and iron tasted like rusted sorrow upon every breath. Tyrion Lannister sat on a mildewed bench, wrists manacled, blinking through torch smoke. His nephew's purpled face still haunted the backs of his eyes. Yet what lingered louder was the memory of Jon Snow's voice cutting across the throne room like drawn steel. "Son of Prince Rhaegar." Footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. Ser Adam Marbrand appeared, flanked by 2 gold cloaks. His torchlight carved molten hollows in Tyrion's cheeks. "The Queen Regent wants answers," Marbrand said. "You will start by confessing which accomplice placed the Strangler in the King's Cup. Was it your friend, the Dragon Wolf?" Tyrion chuckled, though it rasped like gravel. "If I had wished Joff dead, I would not have chosen a Targaryen claimant to upstage my finale. Talk of poor taste." Marbrand's mailed fist struck the cell bars with a clang. "Taste? The realm might drown in war because of that bastard's lies." "Lies require imagination," Tyrion replied. "Our fledgling dragon seemed rather short on that. Merely unwrapping truths your family tried to bury." He leaned forward. "Tell Cersei this. I will speak when I see my brother and not before. Your brother has troubles enough." The knight turned away. "I'll return when your tongue remembers its duty." Darkness reclaimed the corridor. Tyrion exhaled, feeling the weight of chains bite his wrists. If Jaime could not help him, perhaps Varys would, or Oberyn. But spiders and vipers spun webs for their own suppers. He would need something rarer, a miracle or a myth. Perhaps the North's white wolf. Above, the red keep seethed like a struck hive. Tywin Lannister convened the small council before sunrise, replacing velvet wedding draperies with war room austerity. He stood at the map table, fingers drumming near the Riverland's painted forks. Pycelle's corpse lay cooling in the sept, Joffrey's in the silent keep, and Cersei paced like a lioness robbed of her cub. Lord Varys glided in, soft shoes hushed. The streets already whisper of dragon blood. Some small folk hail Jon Snow as the Sable Prince reborn, come to avenge murdered babes. Others blame him for the king's death. "Spread the ladder," Tywin ordered, "and find the bastard. Dead or alive makes no matter, only swift." Varys gave a crisp nod. "Rumor runs faster than gold, my lord. I shall oblige." Grand Maester Pycelle's chair sat empty. In his stead, Qyburn bowed, eyes gleaming. "I humbly accept his Grace Tommen's summons to serve until a new Grand Maester is chosen." Cersei's lip curled at the ex-Maester's presence, but grief muzzled protest. "Find that wolf," she hissed. "Bring me his head, and Sansa's with it. Varys cleared his throat. The Lady Sansa vanished beyond the Gate of the Gods at second watch. She rode with a dire wolf, 2 black brothers, and a handful of Northmen. Reports name her headed for the river along the Rose Road. Send outriders. Tywin's tone brooked no debate. If the girl reaches Riverrun, Jon Snow gains leverage with the Tully hostages. I will not fight 2 wars. Cersei slammed a fist on the table. And my son's killer? Tywin's pale green eyes never blinked. 1 war at a time, your grace. We carve the heart. The limbs rot after. Beyond the walls, dawn unveiled kings landing swaddled in smoke from funeral pyres. Jon Snow watched from the rise of Shepherd's Hill, cloak drawn close against briny wind. Below, gulls circled the masts like spectral ravens. Denys Mallister's gelding cropped weeds nearby while the elder knight sharpened a dirk on whetstone. The city's hornets are stirring, Denys said. If we linger, they'll sting. Jon's eyes followed columns of Lannister crimson marching gateward. Sansa rides for the trident with Ghost. She has a head start. Half a day. Denys tested the blade's edge. Enough. If hunters waste time sniffing for you instead, then let them. Jon mounted, leather creaking. We ride north, but not by King's Road. Too many eyes. Denys sheathed the dirk. You've a plan. Not yet, Jon admitted. But the gods send strange companions. We might find allies at Harrenhal. Roose Bolton holds it for now. My father's bannermen may parley, if only to weigh his chances. The Leech Lord weighs with daggers, Denys muttered, yet he swung astride without more. They trotted along a shepherd's track threading boulders and gnarled olive trees, soon lost among hills baked golden. Crows scolded from thorny nests as if warning them back. Jon pressed harder. By dusk they reached an abandoned septry perched above a stagnant pond. Broken statues of the 7 lay toppled, moss-eaten. Smoke rose from the refectory. Jon dismounted, signaling silence. Through a shattered window he glimpsed 3 men huddled round a sparking cookfire, armor scuffed red and gold. Denys drew breath to curse. Jon's raised hand stilled him. We listen first. Ghost would have scented them miles off, but Ghost was with Sansa. Now caution would serve. They crouched beneath a stone arch inside. A younger Lannister soldier poked the fire. Ser Trant swears the hand wants the bastard skull on a spike afore moon's turn, he said. The beast will fall, growled a second. Bolton's flayed men march south from Harrenhal. They'll sniff snow out quicker than hounds. Jon's stomach clenched. Bolton's betrayal of Robb had been written in blood at the twins. If Roose hunted him, Harrenhal was folly. He leaned back, gesturing retreat, but his boots scraped rubble. The youngest soldier spun. Who's that? Steel rasped. The trio surged toward the doorway. Denys stepped into view like a shadowed sentinel. Back, he commanded. The men hesitated, seeing knights watch black yet recognizing no lord. Jon emerged, longclaw in hand. Moonlight glimmered on Valyrian ripples. The soldiers' eyes widened. 7 spare me, stammered the youngest. It's him. No talk remained. The tallest lunged, spear darting. Jon sidestepped, slicing shaft and forearm in one arc. Blood spattered sandstone. Denys blocked another thrust, dirk punching chain links beneath armpit. The third man fled. Denys chased and felled him with a thrown blade. In heartbeats, the septry fell silent save the hiss of burning fat on coals. Jon wiped Longclaw on a torn crimson cloak. Bolton marches. We change course. To where? Denys asked. Salt pans, then the fingers. By sea to White Harbor, we beg Lord Manderley for swift passage north. He sheathed sword. The wall can ill spare time. Denys nodded. A ghost can move by river easier than by road. They buried the soldiers beneath collapsed statues, saying no prayers. War had stolen all grace from death. Before departing, Jon gathered parchments from the cookfire's edge, orders stamped with the flayed man, promising gold for Jon Snow's head, delivered unto fry hands at the twins. He fed them to the flame, thinking of Roose's bastard Ramsay and the Boltons' lies to Robb. I should have slain him at Moat Cailin, he thought. But the North remembered wrongs long, and Jon would carve the ledger yet. Far ahead along the Rose Road, Sansa pressed her mare across rolling fields of lavender wildflowers. Ghost loped beside, white as hoarfrost, breath hanging in dusk light. Two black brothers rode guard, Targaryen, whose voice once gilded the air at Castle Black, and old Henley, a gaunt ranger with arrow-scarred lip. They had peeled off from Dennis's party before dawn. Sansa's legs ached, yet fear spurred her faster. She dared not imagine Lannister outriders closing the gap. Each mile bound her to new identity. Not captive lady, but northern she-wolf running home. At twilight, they reached an olive grove where a tumbled watchtower leaned like a drunken giant. Targaryen guided them inside ritual hush, lighting a stub of tallow. Ghost prowled perimeter, red eyes flashing. Sansa sank onto a stone bench, trembling. "Will they truly follow us?" she whispered. The gloom made her feel very small. Henley shrugged. "Gold pays many spurs, but roads fork more than rumors. We change mounts thrice come sunrise, by passage on a fisher's skiff for midday. Bloodhounds chase scent, not wind." Targaryen knelt, unpacking hardtack and dried figs. "Eat, my lady. We ride with dawn's gray." "Call me Sansa," she said, surprising herself with courage. "Lady makes me shiver." The bard smiled gently. "Sansa, then. Your brother would be proud." Tears pricked her lids. She pictured Robb, Arya, Bran, lost pieces of a shattered shield. Yet between memories shards glimmered Jon's face at the wedding. Broad-shouldered, commanding, eyes bright with conviction. Not bastard but dragonwolf. She felt pride and terror for the storm he had summoned. Ghost padded close, head under her hand. His warmth eased her shaking. She whispered into his fur, "Keep him safe." The direwolf's ear twitched. She chose to believe he understood. Night deepened. Beyond broken slits, stars turned above the reach. Henley kept first watch, crossbow across knees. Sansa slept fitfully, dream-tossed. Joffrey's purple tongue, Tyrion's shocked stare, Marjorie's rose crown wilted crimson, and beneath all, pale blue eyes watching from a blizzard of feathers. She woke before dawn shivering, but a different chill stroked her skin, humid, fetid. She sat up. Ghost's growl rumbled like distant thunder. A shape crouched by the doorway. Henley lay slumped, bolt protruding from his throat. Targaryen sprawled behind crates, dagger still sheathed. The intruder rose, shadow blotting gaps of moonlight. Leather cloak mottled brown and pink. On the breast, a flayed man stitched in dried skin. "Little bird," Ramsay Snow cooed. His smile was all broken teeth and delight. "You've flown far from your cage." Sansa screamed. Ghost hurled forward, jaws wide. Ramsay pivoted, torch flaring. He sprayed handfuls of ground glass. The dire wolf yelped, hind paws skidding across shards. Sansa grabbed a fallen crossbow, fingers fumbling. Ramsay advanced, axe gleaming wet. A distant horn volley shattered stillness. 3 blasts, answered by 2. Hoofbeats thundered outside. Ramsay cursed, dashed for the rear arch, but arrows whistled through stone. One pierced his shoulder, spinning him. He crashed against wall, shrieking. Men flooded in, bearing trident sigils of House Tully and trout-bannered cloaks. At their head strode Brynden Tully, the blackfish, grizzled eyes flinty in dawn's gray. "Hold!" he barked. Archers froze, knocking next shaft at Ramsay's throat. Sansa stared, crossbow slack in hands. Relief broke her knees. She sank to floor. The blackfish lowered to one knee, touching her shoulder. "Niece," he said softly, "you're safe." At Salt Pan's weed-choked docks, gulls clamored around sun-bleached ribs of burned cogs, ruins left from Greyjoy raids. Jon Snow rode through silent streets where charred beams still stank of death. Refugees huddled in half-collapsed barns, hollow-eyed. No master of tides welcomed them, only a gaunt septon tending the hungry. Jon dismounted by a brackish well. "When did this happen?" he asked, though answer lay in ashes. "Last moon's turn," the septon said, voice cracked. Black sails. They took women, burned rest. The river forgets none of it. Jon thought of Yara Greyjoy's exploits, but ironborn cruelty had many captains. A memory of Asha standing tall at Deepwood haunted him. Would she condone such slaughter? War deformed all. Dennis found a weather-beaten cog still seaworthy, her captain drunk on memories and cheap wine. Wind's Whim, she was called, those sails patched like beggars' quilts. For a pouch of silver, the captain agreed to carry 2 passengers and horse to White Harbor after midnight tide. They pushed off beneath Sliver Moon. Jon stood at prow as brackish waves lapped hull, salt spray cooling brow. Far upriver, fires flickered. Lannister camps maybe, or worse. South wind carried faint thunder of drums. Dennis joined him. I served on the wall half my life, he said. Saw 4 kings rise and fall. None shook me like tonight. Joffrey's death is child's play compared to the storm your name has roused. Jon clenched, railing. Name is nothing. Wall is everything. Yet men follow banners, not walls. Dennis studied him. Will you claim the throne? The question struck Jon harder than cold. I seek allies, not crowns. Crowns find claimants, Dennis warned. Your secret freed itself. Every lord will measure you by the chances he spies. Some will kill for them. Jon turned toward the dark horizon where the sea kissed sky. And some will listen. We need grain, men, dragonglass. Whatever fights the dead. Dennis smiled sadly. Then speak well, Prince, or winter will answer for you. At Riverrun, banners of silver trout on blue rippled in rising breeze. Sansa rode between blackfish outriders across drawbridge timber. Ghost limped but led, glass shards plucked and wounds salved en route. Within the walls, Edmure Tully, gaunt yet resolute after Frey captivity, embraced Sansa with cousinly warmth. Ravens flew north and west, to Jon Snow wherever winds bore him, to Robert Glover at Deepwood, to Howland Reed in the Neck, and to White Harbor where Lord Wyman Manderly feasted on dreams of vengeance. In the solar, Sansa poured her story like winter ale bitter, bracing. Blackfish listened, fingers steepled. Bolton hunts your brother, he said, and Ramsay hunts you. We cannot ride north yet, our strength's too thin. But Stannis camps at the wall, last we heard. Jon might reach him. Sansa startled. Stannis? Hasn't he every reason to slay Jon? Perhaps, Blackfish allowed. Yet he also needs northern swords. A Targaryen Stark heir could sway bannermen wary of Dragon Queen rumors. Politics makes poor bedfellows righteous. Sansa's hands twined. If Jon falls, the realm, we won't let him. Blackfish's mouth twisted into the ghost of a smile. The North remembers, and so do trout. We'll send riders to Maidenpool. The Celtigars still own swift cogs. If Jon sails the Bight, he'll see our banners. Hope flickered within Sansa, fragile as new-lit candle. She dared cradle it. Deep in King's Landing's dungeons, Qyburn bent over Ser Gregor Clegane's towering bulk, freshly racked by wounds from the dwarf melee. Purple veins spidered across the mountain's skin, poison coursing. Qyburn bled leeches, muttering alchemic prayers. Above, Cersei planned a trial by combat, trusting the mountain's sword even as flesh blackened. Desperation births monsters. In the Tower of the Hand, Tyrion's chains rattled as Jaime at last gained entry, gold hand glinting. You picked a splendid night to lose your head, Jaime said, attempting levity. Tyrion's laugh cracked. And you to misplace a hand. They clasped forearms. Tyrion poured words. Sansa vanished, Jon's claim, whispers that Tywin meant to wed Tommen to Marjorie posthaste, to seal Tyrell loyalty and blunt dragon rumors. Jaime's brows furrowed. Father summoned Lord Aaron's grandson, said he'd foster the boy here, hostage sugar-coated as tutelage. Now this, he moves pieces faster than I can track. Pieces break, Tyrion murmured. Find Varys. He traffics secrets like other men trade gems. Perhaps he knows where the wolf flees. Jaime squeezed brother's shoulder. Hold faith. Faith is for Septons. Bring me wine instead. Good Dornish. If I swing, let my tongue be sweet. Jaime left, cloak swirling. Outside the city, Varys indeed listened, but not to Jaime. In the black of the Blackwater, he met with Ser Davos Seaworth upon a rocking skiff. Moonlight revealed Smuggler's grin. The hand's whispers stiffen the lion's tail, Varys said. Yet your king might catch the realm mid-chew. Tell Stannis. The bastard of Winterfell sails for White Harbor. Wolves and dragons both serve flame, if guided true. Davos nodded. Stannis hears little but truth. I'll carry it north swift. Oars dipped. The skiff cut water east. Varys watched until lantern winked out, then sighed. Let the game begin. Wind's whim labored up the white knife, tacking against currents roaring seaward. Forests blazed auburn on banks. Geese honked overhead. On deck, Jon huddled over parchment drafts. Pleas to Stannis, to Manderly, to any who might send men or dragonglass. Ink-stained fingers. Near noon, shouts rose, docks ahead. White Harbor unfurled. Thick walls of pale stone, lighthouse crowned with snarling mermen. Sailors toasted arrival with sour beer. Jon disembarked, Dennis at his side, and were met by steel-tipped tridents of Manderly guards. They escorted him through bustling lanes redolent of fresh-baked bread, smoked eel, cinnamon. Citizens paused, eyes widening at direwolf-less cloaked stranger, whispers rippling. In the wolf's den, a massive keep older than the city, Jon knelt before Lord Wyman Manderly. The lord was vast of girth, face kindly yet calculating. Candlelight gleamed on jade rings. Rise, Lord Snow, or should I say Lord Targaryen, he greeted, voice deep as harbor drums. News travels swifter than rivers these days. Jon stood. Name me what you will, my lord. I come begging aid for the night's watch. Winter marches. Manderly's smile vanished. The dead? Tall tales to Southron ears, but I lost sons on the Green Fork and daughters to Ramsay's dogs. The North knows death's faces. Tell me truth. Jon spoke of the fist, of hard-home glimpses, of whites clawing ice. Hall candles flickered though no breeze stirred. When he finished, silence clung like frost. Manderly exhaled. If half what you say is true, every grain in my granaries is yours. Yet I must weigh against the Boltons. Roose holds Winterfell. The Iron Throne names him warden. Aid to you brands me traitor. Roose flayed my brother's banners, Jon said, voice low. He hunts me to seal treachery. Stand with me, and with Stannis, and the North rises free. Stannis! Manderly's brow lifted. Lord Davos may soon arrive, Dennis interjected. The king marches for the wall. Manderly's eyes gleamed. Then hope rides Cold Iron. He tapped his ringed fingers. Very well. I pledge 30 wagons of grain, 200 spearmen, 50 archers. They sail on the tide. But I ask one boon. Bring me Ramsay's hide to line my hearth, and the Frey's heads upon spikes. Jon nodded, a chill satisfaction stirring. So vowed. Snowflakes whirled around Nightfort's gargoyled ramparts as Stannis Baratheon paced battlements, black cloak snapping. Below, campfires flecked the frozen moat. Melisandre stood watching the sky, red silk ablaze against white. The Lord of Light sends signs, she said. A dragon with a wolf's heart. Fire made flesh to lead armies of snow. Stannis grunted. I know little of prophecies. I know walls and wars. If the boy claims Rhaegar's blood, let him prove it with deeds. The wall's ancient spells unfurl, she intoned. Ice cracks, darkness stirs. Azor Ahai may yet bear many faces before dawn breaks. Stannis turned, jaw hard. When Jon Snow comes, we shall judge worth. But remember, priestess, the realm needs lords more than myths. Beyond the battlements, a horn echoed. Faint, distant, but growing. Riders approached through whirling snow, black cloaks flapping. Stannis narrowed eyes. Perhaps judgment comes sooner than you think? Melisandre murmured, lips curving like flame. In Riverrun's great hall, Sansa held parchment addressed in Jon's hand. Ride swift. Trust the merman. I sail north. Jay. Tears welled as she traced ink. Blackfish stood beside. "A raven from White Harbor," he said. "Your brother sails for Eastwatch with Manderley grain and men. Lord Davos guides." Sansa breathed relief, yet worry twinged. "Roose will race him. Let the bastard of Bolton try." Blackfish rolled shoulders, joints popping. "We have work." Freys flock to siege Riverrun anew. "Time to sharpen trout teeth." Sansa's voice steadied. "Then sharpen mine as well. I will not cower again." Atop a windswept tower of the Eyrie, Littlefinger cradled a raven, eyes sparkling as he reread the missive from King's Landing. Rumors of Jon Targaryen, Lannisters in disarray, Tyrells uncertain. Opportunity smelled sweeter than autumn apples. Below, young Lord Robert Arryn sneezed, shaking. Peter Baelish smiled thinly. "Chaos is not a pit, sweet Robin," he whispered, freeing the raven into the sky. "It is a ladder, and winter's winds lend wings." He pondered sending sweet sister to Riverrun W. If marriage offers, or perhaps a gift. Information that Sansa Stark, precious falcon, had survived. So many strings, so few steady hands. He resolved to keep Sansa close. Her claim, Jon's heritage, the Vale's knights, all tools for a patient player. Evening cloaked the white knife mouth when Jon's convoy boarded stout galleys bound for Eastwatch. Sailors stowed barrels of grain beside crates of pickled fish and bundles of mountain ash boughs. Terns cried overhead. River ice crackled along hulls like shattered glass. Dennis clasped Jon's forearm. "When we reach the wall, my watch ends. But I will stand at your side as long as breath remains." Jon gripped back. "I swear, brother." The word felt weightier than before, brother to watchers, to wolves, to dragons. The tides turned. Lanterns bobbed along piers. Gulls settled. Galleys slipped into moonlit waters, prow cutting silver path. Jon stood at stern, cloak billowing, eyes fixed on star-crowned north. Somewhere beyond the curve of the world, cold kings readied armies of silence. Yet here a flame flickered. A bastard born of ice and fire, carrying letters inked in blood and hope. Whether crown or coffin weighted mattered less than the promise he'd carved into marrow. To guard the living. Wind sang through rigging, low and mournful, but Jon heard within it a song older than thrones. Wolves howling beneath red leaves, dragons roaring across smoking skies. He closed his eyes, letting the two threads twist together, forging a cord strong enough to drag the sun into Twilight's heart. When he opened them, the wall seemed almost visible against the horizon, a pale bruise awaiting sunrise. He would reach it and beyond, and there, upon the edge of the world's breath, the real war would begin. Moonlight poured over the white knife like poured milk, staining every ripple a cold, shimmering silver as the Manderley flotilla slipped north. Jon stood near the stern lantern, feeling the hull creak with each beat of the river's pulse. The leather thong he had tied about his wrist, the one Ygritte once braided for him, tapped nervously against the rail. Far astern, White Harbor's beacon dwindled until it was only another pale star, lost amid 1,000. Dennis Mallister emerged from the quarterdeck shadows carrying a dented flagon and 2 wooden cups. He filled one, handed it over, and raised his own to the horizon. Jon sniffed the liquid. Honey, oak, a ghost of apples long crushed. Northern cider, sharper than wine yet warmer in the gut. They drank without words, breath frosting the dark. "How many days to Eastwatch?" Jon asked, wiping foam from his lip. 2, if the wind holds," Dennis said, though wind was rarely master of itself. "Long enough for gossip to gallop ahead of us. Ravens fly swifter than sails." Jon's hand strayed to his hidden pocket where Eamon's letter rested beneath double-stitched wool. He had decided he would show Stannis the original, not some copy. The king would weigh wax and blood alike. Yet part of him feared what else Stannis would weigh. Stannis Baratheon measured men against his iron justice and found most wanting. The galley lurched, rigging groaning. Jon braced. Dennis only swayed with practiced ease. Somewhere forward, sailors sang a low shanty about a maiden who promised her virtue to whichever mariner could wrestle a walrus single-handed. The chorus ended in something that might have been a kiss or a belch. "Listen," Dennis murmured. Jon held breath. Distant gulls, creak of timber, slap of water on ribs, and another rhythm, faint but growing. A hollow drumbeat where no drum should sound. They moved to the bow. Ahead, moon-white mist veiled a bend. Within the vapors glimmered lanterns somehow too low on the water. The river lords called it ghost fog, but to Jon it looked like a trap. "Captain," Jon called. The man, Davith Pike by name though no kin to Ironborn, swung down from the foremast ratlins. Jon pointed. "See there." Davith squinted. "Fishermen maybe. Nets shine lanterns on mist to draw herring." A hiss split the dark. Something struck the foreyard with a hollow thwack and quivered there, trembling. An arrow barbed and black-fletched. Another followed, thumping into the deck between Jon's boots. "Rouse the men," Davith roared. "Boarders!" Iron rings screamed as port bow shutters opened. Out of the mist slid a longboat rowed by shadowy shapes whose oars dipped in perfect silence. On its prow a flayed man painted crimson leered beneath a hood of human skin. Bolton colors. Dennis drew his dirk. Jon already had Longclaw free. The Valyrian steel drank moonlight, seeming almost hungry. "Hold water!" A voice barked from the longboat. "Yield the wolf bastard and the old crow, and we let the rest sail south alive." Jon felt rather than saw sailors blanch. Davith spat over the rail. "You want him? Swim for him, Leech Lord's whelps." The longboat's answer was a volley of arrows. Sailcloth ripped, a sailor shrieked and toppled. Jon shoved Dennis behind a stack of crates and bellowed, "Shields!" Oars to ramming speed. But Manderley merchantmen carried no shields, and most crew were dock rats, not warriors. Still, Dennis charged the port rail. 3 bolts thunked into the crate shielding him and snapped. He hurdled the debris, dirk flashing, and seized a spare hook used for mooring lines. The longboat scraped hull. Grappling hooks flew, biting timbers. Jon swung Longclaw downward, severing one rope clean. Dennis heaved another hook overboard. Yet more lodged. A half-dozen shapes vaulted rail, Bolton men, mail glinting wet. First to land rushed Jon, axe overhead. Longclaw parried, turning the stroke. The follow-through opened the man's throat in a spray so hot it steamed. Dennis sparred 2 at once, hook clanging off steel caps. A crossbowman knelt, drawing bead on Jon, but Davith hurled a belaying pin that smashed the man's nose sideways. He squealed, dropped the bow, staggered into the river. Still more clambered up. Jon ducked under a pike thrust, stabbed upward through groin and belly, wrenched free. A boot stamped his calf. He stumbled but caught himself on the rail. All around, deck planks slick and black. Suddenly the longboat lurched as its oarsmen shrieked. Out of the mist charged another vessel. A squat, 2-masted hulk with a merman figurehead and a deck bristling with pikes. The merman's bearded mouth belched a horn blast that shook splinters from the rigging. On its banner, a white merman on turquoise. "Long live Lord Manderley," someone roared. The newcomer sheared alongside Bolton craft. Crossbows cracked. Grapples flew in reverse. Within breaths, river pirates in sea-green jerkins surged aboard the Bolton boat. Battle turned to massacre. Jon plunged back into his own fight. One last Bolton knight traded 3 heavy swings before Dennis slid the hook behind his knee and yanked. Longclaw finished the work. Then it was over. 20 corpses bobbed astern, staining Moontrack red. The Manderley patrol captain saluted across water, torch casting his beard gold. "Lord Wyman sends regrets for lateness," he shouted. "We escort you north by his grace." Davith waved gratitude, voice hoarse with relief. Jon stared at dead men drifting past Hull. Most wore Ramsay's pink flayed man, but one had Fry checkered badge. Roose was paying every vulture to peck this quarry. Dennis wiped blade on a fallen cloak. "First blood paid," he muttered. Not first, Jon thought, but far from last. Morning brought gulls feasting on swollen bodies. The flotilla raised full sail, wind fresh from east. As they curved out of the river's mouth into the shivering sea, the sky turned pale jade, and in its heart hung the wall, sliver thin, ghost white against blue, impossibly tall despite distance. A sudden longing welled in Jon, a desire for creaking girders, for the cold kiss of ice tunnels, for the comfort of knowing the world above might hate him but the wall did not. It simply stood. At dusk, gray spires of Eastwatch by the sea took shape. Narrow timber towers clinging like barnacles to the cliff, beacon fires guttering orange. War horns boomed welcome. Dockhands rushed to secure lines. Northern spearmen disembarked with grain crates. Jon touched shore feeling something settle inside. Whatever dragon's blood coursed in him, he was a brother of this place first. Bowen Marsh greeted him on the quay, cheeks ruddy from chill. "You're a hare chased by many hounds," he said, offering a stiff embrace. "Ravens brought rumors enough to wake the dead. Some even true, it seems." Jon clasped his forearms. "Ravens exaggerate, yet there's truth." He glanced at the ramparts. A royal banner topped one turret, fiery heart of R'hllor encircling stag. Stannis arrived? "Night fort mainly, but he keeps a garrison here," Marsh said. "Heard you'd come. Sent an honor guard." He gestured. 5 knights in black lacquer armor trimmed red, their breastplates stamped with a fiery heart. Among them strode Ser Richard Horp and cruel-jawed Ser Godry Faring. The last, lean as a pole, wore flaming sword sigil, Ser Clayton Suggs. They bowed curtly. "His Grace commands your presence forthwith," Ser Richard intoned. "Your escorts will attend." Jon felt Dennis stiffen. Marsh cleared his throat. "Lord Snow is still bound by our vows. The king has no jurisdiction inside the wall." Suggs smiled thinly. "The wall stands. The realm bends." He drew back cloak. "Come peaceably, Znoi. No need for ruffled feathers." Jon laid a calming hand on Dennis's shoulder. "I will come, alone except my brother here. The king and I share enemies. Best we speak." Suggs spat into the frost. "As you say, bring your sword. His Grace respects bold steel." They saddled fresh horses and rode west along the base of the wall, moon gleaming on ice like mother of pearl. The path twisted through petrified forests, ghostly trees with bark white as chalk. Wind moaned inside hollows, voices of giants long dead. At the night fort's shadowed gatehouse, torches lined murder holes. Drawbridge creaked. They crossed the black moat where monstrous shapes lay frozen under glassy surface. Old legends said a thing with 1,000 eyes slumbered there. Inside the courtyard, tents and wagons cluttered around a roaring fire pit. Sel's words sharpened axes. Queen's men chanted to R'hllor. Northern lords in shabby furs huddled by braziers. Stannis Baratheon waited beneath the broken tower archway, crownless yet more a king than any Jon had seen. His face set like the wall itself, immovable. Beside him, Melisandre's red silks caressed the gloom. Light from her ruby reflected in Stannis's cold blue eyes. Jon dismounted, bowed. "Your Grace." "Snow," Stannis acknowledged. "Or is it Targaryen now?" Ravens chirp. Jon met his gaze. "Name is Wind. I answer to the watch." Stannis's mouth twitched almost to a smile, then thought better of it. A convenient answer, but wind can fan flame. He gestured toward a makeshift war table layered with maps from Eastwatch to King's Landing. "We'll speak inside." Several lords attended. Tall Justin Massey, Burly Wool, dour Arnulf Karstark's nephew Artha, and Lord Godry the giant slayer rubbing scarred knuckles together. They eyed Jon warily, measuring dragon rumors against the plain cloak before them. Stannis pointed at the King's Road line. "My scouts report Roose Bolton moves south from the Dreadfort, gathering Frey levies. He means to pace me while Robb Stark's ghost still rattles the north. Yet here you stand, half Stark blood, half Targaryen. Explain." Jon removed Maester Aemon's parchment, broken seal kept in a small ashwood box to prevent accusation of tampering. He laid both on the wooden table beneath flicker of torches. Stannis read silently. The hall stilled. Even the fire crackled softer, as if straining to hear. When finished, Stannis passed letter to Justin Massey, then to each lord in turn. Murmurs rose. Prince Rhaegar loved his songs. Godry said, brow furrowing. I never thought them fertile. Arthur Karstark snorted. Better a dragon than a leech, if he'll flay the flayed. Stannis lifted hand. Silence fell. I cared neither for Rhaegar nor Eddard Stark before they died. Yet their honor is remembered. If this letter is forged, I'll see the forger flayed alive. Is it truth? Jon met his gaze. As true as the wall is cold. I never asked for it. I can't deny it. Melisandre stepped forward, ruby blazing. I see two shadows in him, she said in voice like temple bells on strange wind. One of snow, one of ash. Together they make light that may drive darkness back. Azor Ahai may be reborn not in one, but in union. Stannis exhaled through nose. Prophecies again. I trust steel more. He leaned across table. I have men but little food. Wyman Manderly sends grain because of you. Convince more northern lords and their swords become mine. Do that and the bastard, Targaryen or not, earns his keep. Jon nodded slowly. The north follows the Stark's memory. Free it from the Boltons and Freys, and they'll crown whoever breaks their chains. Crown, Stannis barked. I seek no half measures. The Iron Throne is mine. But I'll seat you in Winterfell if your name unlocks hearts. Jon swallowed. Winterfell, home he never believed he'd see again, offered like a coin across a tavern table. Yet he pictured the silent hall, his brother's ghosts, the crypt of Lyanna and Rhaegar's memory. Winterfell belongs to the Starks. Stannis' eyes narrowed. Then take the direwolf banners if dragon banners shame you. I care only that Bolton falls and the realm obeys law. Will you help? Jon looked to Dennis, remembering vows sworn at a weirwood. The watch forbade crowns, wives, lands, but it also forbade ignoring greater need. Aemon's voice whispered, a man must know the cost of his honor. He sheathed Longclaw across the map where the Dreadfort sat like a canker. I will ride south for allies, speak the truth, ask their help for the wall and your cause both. But my first loyalty stays with the watch. When the horn calls, I answer. Stannis studied him, then nodded once. Curt, so be it. Dawn 2 days hence, we march for Carhold to seize grain stores. You'll ride ahead, carry raven letters stamped with this seal. He pressed a ring depicting crowned stag into red wax, stamped parchment thrice. If Bolton intercepts you, pray your dragon blood fires courage. Melisandre's smile flickered like candle flame meeting wind. Courage he has, your grace. Whether the world has breath enough to face his light, we shall see. They dismissed. Dennis and Jon found cots in an upper gallery open to the night sky. Snow drifted through missing roof beams, but neither felt the cold. Sleep came in ragged dreams. Jon stood in the crypts where Ned's statue wept blood, while a dragon made of snow and cinder coiled around him, whispering in tongues past reason. Dennis saw the wall crack like eggshell, revealing blinding light that seared his eyes awake. Morning horns sounded. Jon rose stiff-limbed, girded sword, wolf fur cloak, and new leather jerkin Stannis' quartermaster provided. He found Samwell Tarly in the yard, rosy-cheeked from cold but smiling as only Sam could. Jon! Sam embraced him. Raven said, but I scarce believed. Everyone's speaking of your birth. His voice dropped. Is it true? Yes, Jon said softly. But first, Gilly the boy? Safe in Old Town, Sam said. Archmaester Peristan agreed to examine the babe's blood. Dragons run thick in Valyrian lines. He suspects the child's screams might break glass. Sam grinned shyly, then sobered. The wall's spells feel weaker. A chill deeper than ice creeps along the stones. Maester Aemon felt it before we left. It's worse now. Jon placed hand on his shoulder. Hold fast. We ride to gather swords, but we'll return. He thought of Sansa, of Arya lost to rumor, of Bran beyond the wall's pale. Each thread tugged his heart until it seemed ready to unravel. Tell the men to keep their faith.
Sam nodded, tears bright.
I will. 7 guide you, Jon, if they still can. They parted. Dennis waited with 3 of Stannis' faster courser mounts. Maps, sealed letters, spare cloaks, hard bread. Snowflakes kissed saddles. Hooves clattered across drawbridge. They galloped south along King's Road's wintry spine, breath pluming, banners furled. Behind them, Stannis' forces assembled. Ragged northern clansmen with bronze axes, Queen's men chanting prayers, sell-sails whose pay came in promises of spoils and pardons. Siege engines creaked on sledges, bound for Carhold first, then Winterfell. South of the Gift, the King's Road twisted among snow-covered ridges. Jon and Dennis rode single file to mask numbers. At every wayside and they paused only long enough to water horses and pin Stannis' sealed offers to doorposts. Join or burn. Some innkeepers eyed the dragon wolf sigil Jon sketched beneath but dared not tear it down. On the third dawn, as pink light bled across white fields, they crested a knoll overlooking Last Hearth. Smoke rose from chimneys, but main gate hung broken and black. Ravens wheeled.
Jon's Gut clenched.
They approached through drifts knee-deep, houses silent. In the bailey lay corpses, men, women, children, some flayed, others hacked. Bolton banners flapped alongside umbers. Direwolf severed in half. Dennis dismounted, curse frozen on his beard. They came for Greatjon's kin. Jon found the body of Small Jon Umber, nailed naked to the hall's outer door, eyes gouged. On his chest, carved words, loyalty not enough. Fire kindled inside Jon, hotter than dragon flame, white as tearfrost. He lifted Longclaw and hacked the corpse free, carried him within and laid him on the hearth where once songs echoed. He covered the remains with a patched bearskin and swore silently that flaying would be avenged limb by limb. They found one survivor, a stable boy named Dobber, hiding among hay. He stammered that Ramsay Snow arrived 2 nights past with 50 riders, demanded oaths, and when the Umbers delayed, torches danced. Ramsay took 3 girls, left charred bones. Jon offered Dobber a place among their party to guide them through Umber lands. The boy accepted, eyes blank. Together they buried dead beneath frozen soil, though the ground resisted. Before departing, Jon fashioned a crude banner. Umber giant made of cedar branches lashed together and raised high above gate. Beneath it he nailed Stannis' letter. Let the realm see. They rode westward now toward Deepwood Motte, hoping Glover men yet defied Bolton. Wind keened through pine until it began to sound like restless dead. At dusk, snow thickened, swirling into white smother. They dug a shelter under leaning firs and shared salt pork strips charred over pine cones. Dennis hummed the night's watch oath in low baritone. Dobber whispered the names of those lost. Jon lay awake, staring at shifting shadows. Ice spiders of legend skittered through dreams. Each wore Bolton flayed skin like armor plates. When he jerked upright, hours passed. Snow buried their horses to hock. Dawn broke only when gray turned paler gray. They pressed on. By midday snow eased, revealing a company of riders ahead. Wolf banners quartered with Glover's silver fist. Trumpets sounded. Sarala Glover herself greeted them, armored like her brother once rode. She listened grimly to Last Hearth's fate. Deepwood holds, she said. But word spreads that the bastard of Bolton readies his bloody wedding feast for Arya Stark at Winterfell. She spat. That, and Joffrey's poison, realm bleeds lies. Jon's jaw tightened. Arya? She vanished years. Bolton plays puppet. His mind raced. Another false wolf for northern hearts. That must not stand. Will you ally with Stannis? Sarala eyed him, then his sword. Sword whispers truth, she said. But northern oaths run deep. Show me heart as bright as steel, and Deepwood rides. Winterfell first, though. Free its crypts or no hearth will burn warm again. Jon met her eyes steady. Crypts will open soon enough. Stand with us, and Bolton's dogs'll whimper. She signaled. A horn call echoed. 300 spears emerged from Treeline, cloaks striped green and gray. Dennis exhaled relief. Sarala offered oatcakes thick with pine nuts. They shared bread, sealing trust more sure than any parchment. Night fell. Around joint fires, Jon told tales of the wall. Dead men walking, ravens crying at midnight. Glover men listened, spines stiffened. Some wept quiet tears for small John. Sarala clasped John's shoulder. "Tomorrow we march," she vowed, "and every house that remembers Rob's howl will answer." While north stirred, river unbraced, Edmure's sentries spied fry banners on the west bank by dawn. A haphazard host of pale pink and mud-brown robes, siege towers in tow. But Blackfish was ready. Under cloak of fog, he sent sorties of riverboats skimming low to sink fry supply barges. At midday, one barge laden with siege stones erupted in flame so bright the Freys believed dragons flown. Sansa watched from parapet, heart thundering joy at enemy confusion. She spent evenings with Maester Vyman copying letters. One she penned to Jon herself, news of Ramsay's raid foiled, of her refuge of fry camps. She sealed it with molten wax stamped by a trout biting a direwolf's tail. "Find my brother," she whispered to the Raven Master as the bird vanished toward dusk's bleeding sky. In King's Landing, that same sky bled onto black marble as Cersei lit candles around Joffrey's body. Praise from Septons echoed, empty as stone. Qyburn arrived, face lined with fatigue, and knelt. "The mountain survives," he rasped. "Though venom rots him, I can save what matters." "Save his sword arm," Cersei said, voice hollow. "And his hate." Qyburn's smile was shadow. "When he wakes, he will know only that." Tywin entered, Boothiel's clicking. "Leave us." Qyburn bowed, departed. Tywin regarded his daughter's wan profile. "Tommen is crowned in 2 days. Your grief cannot stall realm." Cersei didn't look up. "They whisper of the dragon wolf more than my son. Even priests gossip. Then we weave new stories louder." He set parchment on a low table, decrees naming Roose Bolton Warden of the North still, Tommen's betrothal to Marjorie reaffirmed, an edict condemning Jon Targaryen as impostor and traitor. Words win wars before swords strike. Cersei's gaze sharpened on Jon's name. "Kill him. Send Ser Balon Swan with the Kingsguard." Tywin folded hands. "Assassination emboldens legend. Better Bolton strangles him publicly after victory. Until then, we bleed Stannis. Starve him of allies, brand him king of nothing." He turned to leave, pausing at door. "Guard your grief, Cersei. Vengeance clouds reason." She stared at Joffrey's still face. "Vengeance is reason. Beyond the wall, deeper than man dared roam." The Night King listened to winds bearing scents of fire and discord. His legion gathered. Pale giants, bears with eyes of frozen dawn, pale children clinging to undead mothers. At his command, white walkers placed cracked hand upon a massive ice altar. With motions slow as millennia, they shaped frost into something that glimmered like crystal. Within it swirled shadows of 3-headed dragons and dire wolves entwined, warring, devouring the sun. He raised it. A crack of ice answered far away. Somewhere the wall shuddered, hairline fractures creeping like veins in glass. He smiled, a silent rictus, then pointed south. The horde began to move, snow billowing like a cloak. On the shivering sea, Daenerys Targaryen stood upon the prow of a Pentoshi cog, smelling salt and liberty. Drogon circled fiery shapes overhead. Regal and Viserion roared behind. The wind smelt of distant frost and distant war. Yora tugged his collar. "My queen, Westeros is torn open. A dragon claimant rises in the north." Her lips parted. "Aegon?" she whispered, echo of lost brother before Viserys. "Or some trick. Ravens speak of Jon Snow, bastard raised at Winterfell." Yora hesitated. "Your half-brother, if truth." Daenerys felt the world tip slightly. To have kin after all the ashes? She closed eyes. When she opened them, they burned like lit coals. "If he is blood, we are bound. But only one dragon shall sit the Iron Throne. I will meet him and judge." Waves broke against Hull, carrying them west. In the Vale, Peter Baelish received a raven from Maidenpool, Stannis' envoy seeking troops in Rabar Royce's name. Littlefinger stroked Lisa's hair as she dozed near the hearth, her snores soft. He fed the letter to flame, eyes reflecting green tongues. "Climb," he whispered. "Always climb." Night settled upon Jon's camp at foot of Rimeholt's Ridge. Glover fires dotted snow like ember constellations. Jon stood watch, snowflakes melting on eyelashes. In the hush, he almost imagined Ghost's soft footfalls, but the dire wolf lay miles south guarding Sansa. Still, he sensed a presence, something beyond sense, perhaps bloodline calling bloodline. Stars exploded overhead as an aurora rippled green and violet. The sight stole breath. Men murmured old tales, that auroras were curtains between life and death ripped aside. Jon watched until colors faded. He touched pommel of Longclaw, felt warmth pulse where steel met leather. Sleep found him late, dreams full of crimson leaves and blue roses blooming through ice. Lynna's voice carried on wind. "Promise me." He reached, but she slipped into frost. Then Rhaegar appeared clad in dark plate, harp slung, crown of rubies bleeding down brow. He placed his hand on Jon's shoulder and said without moving lips, "Song needs singers." When Jon woke, dawn scarred the east, and he understood there would be no peace until every throat learned the tune or fell silent refusing it. They broke camp, columns trailing banners of wolf and fist and stag in heart. Last hearth smoke still smudged sky behind them. Ahead lay Carhold, Winterfell, fate. As horses trudged, Dennis rode close. "Our 5,000 words of wandering grow heavy, Prince." Jon smiled, weary. "Words heavier than steel sometimes. Then may next ones forge victory." Jon looked south where snow-glazed hills rolled endless. Somewhere beyond that horizon, a wedding feast waited, tables laid with fear and false identity. He nudged his stallion. "Ride. The next chapter writes itself in blood and flame." Clouds advanced, gray armies on gray fields. The wind carried distant howl of wolves, some living, some not, and above it, faint yet rising, the thunder of wings. Cold dawn cracked across the sky in shards of opal and rose, yet the gift lay hushed beneath a mantle of powdery white. Snow so fresh it had not settled into crust, so light it flew upward on every breath of wind. Jon Snow, cloaked in wolf fur, guided his stallion downslope from Rimeholt Ridge. Dennis Mallister and Sarala Glover rode astern, followed by 300 spears in patient, muffled order. Fresh snow-matted fetlocks and deadened hooves. The only sounds were the creak of leather and the thin ghost song of the wind threading through frozen spruce. The road to Carhold. They marched east first, not south, skirting foothills to swing around the ruined last hearth. The detour cost a day, but Sarala insisted. "If the Umbers bled for nothing, we honor them by bearing witness." At midday the column reached the ashes of an Umber watchpost. Wolves had come in the night, leaving only blackened beams and gnawed bone. Jon dismounted, knelt in melted snow beside a half-consumed thigh. No flame marks here. The pack had merely taken what the Boltons left behind. "One day," he whispered, tracing the charred grain, thinking of Bran's tales by Winterfell's hearth, of the Greyjoy's booming laughter. "One day the wolves will feast on them instead." He rose, eyes flinty. Sarala raised her fist. Spears wrapped shield rims once in vow. 3 riders were dispatched to scout the Dreadfort Road. The army veered northeast toward Carhold, banners furled to keep snow from weighing cloth. Carhold's silent gates. Carhold loomed 2 evenings later, its towers frigid red under a sanguine sunset. From afar all seemed peace, but a ride closer revealed the ramparts unmanned. The portcullis stood open, chains snapped. Ravens massed on embrasures in murmuring, oily flocks. Sarala's outrider returned panting. "No horns, no torches, milady. Keep looks dead." Jon exchanged a glance with Dennis. "Or waiting." They advanced shield to shield through the gate tunnel, muffling horses with sacking beneath hooves. Main yard frozen hard as hammered steel, scattered with casks split by frost.
No bodies.
Just emptiness. A brittle hush so absolute Jon's breath sounded like breaking glass. Inside the great hall they found the explanation. 36 Karstark men hanged from rafters, heads bagged, sigils stripped. Underneath, a single banner lay trampled. Black stag in a fiery heart, the threads torn out until only frayed cloth remained. Dennis cut one corpse free. Ice crumbled from beard. Bolton's work. Jon shook his head. Karstark's turned cloak months ago, but this feels cleaner. He knelt where dried blood darkened stone. A word had been scratch-carved into the slab by desperate hands. Letters wobbling. Treachery. Sarala spat. Arnulf's bastard kin opened gates for Stannis, then stabbed him when Raven arrived, naming them traitors. She touched the corpse. Midnight justice followed. Jon's gaze swept the hall. Yet the castle's empty of the living. Where are Stannis's men? A horn moaned outside, low and tentative. Scouts hustled through the door. Riders on the coast road, Lord Karstark's young heirs leading them. They say Stannis marches south already, toward the Dreadfort, left last night. Jon cursed under breath. The king had chosen speed over size. If Stannis reached Winterfell first, Bolton would be caught between sieges, but Jon's alliance network lagged. He turned to Sarala. We split. Your host drives straight on the King's Road to bar Ramsay's approach. Dennis and I ride for Widow's Watch to rouse Mormont and Tallheart. Carhold's grain goes with you. Sarala searched his face. And if Bolton catches me? Hold until Stannis breaks Winterfell from the north. We'll strike from the west. He clasped her wrist. Tell every bannerman. The north remembers. Snow fluttered in through broken shutters. Sarala's dark eyes shone flake bright. She nodded once, hard. For the dead at last hearth. They parted in the yard. Glover trumpets sent columns wheeling south. Jon and Dennis spurred east. The thunder of hooves swallowed quick by snow. Catspaw in the vale. 600 leagues southeast. In the gawping throat of the bloody gate, Peter Baelish coaxed his palfrey up the last switchback. Flurries twirled like white moths around pillar torches. The Waynwood sigil, a gray field of broken swords, hung limp above the archsere Brynden Tully's nephew Ser Shadrich of the Shady Glen greeted Peter with brittle courtesy, eyes flicking at two covered litters behind him. One for the Lady Lisa? Shadrich asked. Peter smiled thinly. She's nijinu varmt, sir. My late wife returns to her gods in the quiet of the Eyrie. He gestured to litter two. And our sweet Lord Protector rests uneasily. Maester Coleman fears the mountain air. In truth, young Robert Arryn snored beneath furs, goblet of sweet milk still clutched in pale hand. Shadrich eyed the second litter. And the third passenger? Peter clucked tongue. A falcon chick. Needs peace to hatch. He moved on, spurring. Inside the litter, Sansa Stark's cloak of veil blue hid auburn hair. Her face remained still, as Peter had demanded, though rage thrummed in her veins. He had tricked her south with promises of Jon's approach, forging letters of desperate plea. Now she sat captive, a treasure for barter. Peter rode ahead thinking, with Sansa and Robert both in hand, the Vale's knights were sinew to pull against northern chaos. A dragon wolf crowned? Let him trade for falcon eyes. Littlefinger saw board positions shifting faster than kings. Eastwatch's ticking glass. At Eastwatch, Samwell Tarly strode along the Speargate parapet where ice met restless black sea. Cold gnawed his bones. Beside him, Maester Harmune, white whiskers rhymed with frost, peered at the wall's basal seam, thin cracks creeping upward a finger's breadth each dawn. It spreads, Harmune said. Heat flees the stone as if sucked out. I fear sorcery older than any oath. Sam's breath fogged. Jon wrote of the Night King stirring. Could this be his doing? Harmune touched the wall, drew back stinging fingers. Stone feels brittle, as if it were sugar. Below, a deep boom reverberated, ice shifting. The maester's gaze flitted to the horizon where the sea turned steely green. Pray your prince returns in time. Sam pressed raven parchment to chest. Winterfell by first thaw. Light the beacons at first sign of breach. Jon's scrawl. Sam shuddered, and for the first time wished he'd stayed in Old Town's lamplit stacks. Widow's Watch, wolves and bees. Widow's Watch jutted atop a wave-eaten bluff like a broken spine. Lanterns shimmered yellow in arrow slits, but no horn greeted Jon and Dennis as they pounded across the causeway. Gates stood open again too easily. Wind moaned through portcullis chains. Courtyard empty. Inside the feasting hall, they found Lady Meage Mormont seated alone at the high table, breastplate over sealskin, great axe across knees. She nodded grave welcome. Left the fires burning for you, Snow. Spies brought word of your march. Around her, benches lay toppled, dishes scattered, as though men had gone in haste. Where are your daughters? Jon asked after quick bows. Hunting kraken men along the stony shore. Meage's mouth tightened. Bolton pays saltmen a silver stag for every bear cut in half. Dennis winced. Ramsay's reach is long. Meage slammed fist on the board. But bears bite. Asha Greyjoy sails under her own banners. She bars Bolton from sea. At your word, she'll carry proof of Karstark betrayal into every shore village. The Islander woman's dark eyes gleamed. Give the word. Jon unfolded Stannis's writ. Proof enough. Tell Asha the North needs her ships on White Harbor before equinox. Grain convoys, ferries for troops. He tapped the table. And box their ears with Bolton skulls if she likes. Meage grinned wolfishly. I'll fly before dawn. She offered 40 spears to Jon's retinue, woodland hunters in cloaks mottled like dappled shade. With them came ravens trained to Gore Isle's lonely Ares, swift, silent, unswervable in storm. Jon penned 2 new letters, one to Asha, one to Lyanna Mormont, youngest lady of Bear Island, forging sisterhood of wolves. Night thickened beyond arrow slits, sleet rattling like thrown gravel. Dennis slept in an antechamber, but Jon paced the deserted solar. Winds battered shuttered windows. In the dark he felt the old stones hum, a low vibration, as though thunder rolled miles beneath. He pressed ear to wall. A pulse, faint but deep, like mountain-sized drums. He lifted head, heart racing. Was it only the sea? Somewhere far north, he felt. A giant's hand probed cracks in ice. Frye Folly. On the Red Fork's misty banks, the Frye siege lines buckled under spring floods. Blackfish's sally barges had burned half their rafts, and swollen waters swept stakes away. Lord Walder's 5th son, Ser Ben Frye, ranted at engineers, horseflies collaring his fattish neck. Across the water, Riverrun's towers gleamed gold in sunset. In the infirmary Sansa sorted root powders alongside Maester Vyman. Mild rose for fevers, Vyman muttered. Honey water for coughs. He paused, eyeing her. You learn quick, my lady. When you've been captive, she answered, grinding petals in mortar. You respect any skill that frees mind from fear. Later she walked ramparts, skirts whipped by river wind. Archers knocked shafts, waiting for torch glimmer across the water. Blackfish joined her. Scouts sighted Frye wagons heading east, likely to gather allies. What allies? She asked. Walder's got daughters matched into half the realm, but news of Jon spreads. Some men question their vows. Blackfish's wrinkles deepened. If Jon breaks Winterfell, Freys will melt like snow. Our duty is to hold until then. Sansa looked out over dusk. A raven wheeled overhead, ghostly against purple sky. She touched the carved wolf's head clasp at her collar. A gift from Glover Armorers. He will break it. I feel it. Tyrion's trial. In the Red Keep's throne room hung with black and gold draperies, Tyrion Lannister faced a panel. Tywin, Mace Tyrell, and the High Septon newly elected. Pious man with eyes milky as candle tallow. Cersei watched like a hawk. Behind her, Ser Gregor Clegane stood swathed head to heel in bandages, towering silent as a tomb column. The High Septon droned. Tyrion of House Lannister, you stand accused of kingslaying. How plead you? Tyrion's chains clanked. With astonishment, as none yet proved the king was slain by mortal hand. He bowed theatrically. A goblet? A jape? Perhaps the gods were drunk. Cersei hissed, but Tywin only raised palm. Enough. Produce your champion or confess. Tyrion's eyes skittered over the hall and landed on Oberyn Martell slouched astride a bench, grin feline. I choose the Red Viper. Oberyn rose with languid grace. I accept. His gaze slid to Ser Gregor. At last, justice pirouettes into my arms. Qyburn guided Gregor forward, the giant wheezing gently, though eyes remained hidden behind black silk. Date of combat fixed, 1 week. Tyrion exhaled, 1 more week to scheme, bribe, bargain. He turned to leave, but Varys's whisper reached his ear. Storms gather beneath the city. Best find a sturdy boat. Tyrion filed it away, mind already turning cogs. The things below. That night in black cells, Varys crept by torch, unlocking Tyrion's door. Come, he urged. Time short. They slid through forgotten passages, damp stone sweating secrets. At last they ducked into a cistern cavern where the black water churned black beneath iron grates. 2 skiffs waited. In one, Shay, her eyes swollen from tears, sat gagged, wrists bound. Tyrion staggered. Why? Varys sighed. Your father will kill her to break you. I could not allow it. Take her. Sail on dawn tide. Pentos perhaps, or Bravos. And you! The realm ever needs spiders. Varys touched Tyrion's cheek. Should the dragon wolf unseat lions, a spider may yet spin. Tyrion swallowed bitterness, freed Shay. She slapped him once, then collapsed sobbing in his arms. He guided her into skiff. We'll find a quiet inn by the sea of Myrtach, he murmured. Drink peach brandy until sun forgets our names. Varys shoved provisions aboard, nodded farewell, and vanished back into tunnels. The skiff slipped out to frothing channel, moon half hidden by cloud. Tyrion gripped oars, heart thudding. Behind him King's Landing's lamps winked like 1,000 jealous eyes. Oath of the Weirwood. 2 mornings later Jon reached Barrowton. Dusty town ringed by ancient barrow mounds. The dusty smell of old lichen and earth hung heavy. Inside the Weirwood circle beyond tumble-down walls, 12 minor lords waited. Dustin, Ryswell, Serwyn, Tallheart cousins, Hornwood kin, all restless. Jon dismounted, leaving Dennis and Meage's 40 behind. He walked alone into the circle. The heart tree stood leafless, white bark flayed by centuries of wind until ridges resembled St. Wretched sinew. Crimson sap welled like tears. Snow dusted its roots. Jon laid Longclaw before it. My name is Jon Snow, he began, voice carrying crisp in the cold. I am brother of the Night's Watch, sworn sword of the realm. But I bear truth once hidden. He raised Maester Aemon's letter so all saw seal. Lyanna Stark gave birth to a son, not in shame but in love. Prince Rhaegar's son. Me. Murmurs rippled. Lord Dustin's gray eyes narrowed. Pretty tale. Why bring it here? Because the Boltons and Freys murder your kin and claim your hearths. Their king sits in King's Landing burying the North in taxes. I ask you to choose. Kneel to the flayed man, or stand with wolf and stag and dragon, and free Winterfell. Silence. Then Lady Barbary Ryswell stepped forward, cloak of sable swirling. Ned Stark avenged my husband, though he was kinslayer by law. I owe the Starks no love, but I owe them honesty. Your eyes, Snow Stark eyes. Your sword, Ned's gift. I believe. She drew steel. I will ride. Lord Serwyn followed. Tallheart cousin next. One by one, lords knelt, planting sword points in frozen soil. Only Dustin hung back. At last he grimaced. Bolton flayed my brother. That debt trumps doubts. He knelt. Jon felt weight land on his shoulders, burden of expectation heavy as armor. He lifted Longclaw. Rise, free Northmen. Pack what you can carry. We march within the hour. Horns sounded across the Barrow Downs as banners unfurled. Grey direwolf quartered with black stag and white merman. Bleeding into one swirling standard the likes of which had not flown since old King Torrhen knelt to Aegon. Wedding of flayed snow. Winterfell's gods would wear new snow when Ramsay Snow, now legitimized, strolled along frozen pond arm in arm with Arya Stark, clad in maiden white. In truth, the girl was Jane Poole, her terror masked with foxfur hood. Ramsay's fingers pressed bruises beneath her sleeve. My sweet bride, he said, smiling too broadly. Soon you'll kneel before me in crowded halls while they cheer. Does that excite you? Jane shivered. Yes, my lord. Her voice cracked. Inside the great hall, Roose Bolton hosted lords. Freys, Umber Turncloaks, Karstark renegades clinging to fraying chants at pardon. Beyond ramparts, skies darkened with uncanny haste, Stormfront bruising from north. Roose listened to reports. Stannis reached the Crofters' village, skirmishes inconclusive. Jon Snow marched upriver with minor lords. Carhold fallen, grain lost. Ramsay scoffed. Let them gather. My bastards'll cut them down where moors swallow moonlight. Roose's pale eyes narrowed. Words. I need Winterfell sealed thrice over. And fetch your wife garlands and honeycomb. Not bruises. Alliances bruise enough. Dragon over Dorne. Far south across the sea, Daenerys's fleet sighted the sandstone towers of Sunspear. Dornish lookouts gaped as 3 dragons swooped overhead, shadows cloaking parapets. Prince Doran Martell, sick in his wheeled chair, rolled onto the tower of the sun balcony as Drogon's roar shook stained glass. A slow smile crept across his lips. Rhaegar's sister, he whispered, remembering promises of vengeance. And the realm aflame, fire meets sand. In the harbor, Tyrion's skiff slipped among galleys. Salt wind stung his eyes. Shay slept under blanket. Tyrion saw red wings slash sky. 7 hells, he muttered. From lions to lions with wings, he steered toward a shadowed quay. Fate clearly intended new company for its next jest. Shatter of ice. At Eastwatch, Samwell heard the wall moan like a world-sized cello string snapping. He raced to inner courtyard where Maester Harmune rang bells. South wind blew bitter and salty, but from the north, the air felt still, too still. Snowflakes ceased mid-fall, suspended like motes in amber. A boom, even deeper than before, rolled through Marrow. Sam looked up. A fissure 6 feet wide ripped the wall from crown to base barely a quarter-mile west, blue light seething inside like heartfire. Ice calved. Boulders crashed to ground in thunderclouds of shards. Rangers! Bowen Marsh cried, voice breaking. Man the breach! Arrows loosed into swirling vapor. Outstepped figures gaunt and pale, armored in rime, white walkers. Spears of crystal dripped hoarfrost. Whites surged after, eyes lambent blue. Eastwatch's war horn split sky in 3 long, hopeless notes. Sam drew the dragonglass dagger Jon had given him at Craster's Keep. His hands trembled. He whispered, "For Gilly," and joined the line. Dawn before storm. Jon's host reached the outskirts of Winterfell as first dawnlight painted sky bruise purple. Flurries thick as meal poured sideways, driven by northeast gale. Banners streamed like pennants of war. The combined army, Glover, Dustin, Ryswell, Serwyn, Bear, Manderley detachments ferried by Asha's longships, arrayed along the ridge west of the Godswood. Behind them, horns bleated. Stannis' vanguard spilling through Wolfswood, a ragged wedge of Baratheon golden lines and mountain clans. Jon rode to meet the king beneath a blasted oak. Stannis' grim smile creased wind-burnt cheeks. You gathered half the realm in days. Not bad, Snow. Jon handed him spyglass view. Fry standards on Wintertown Palisade. Bolton men scurrying to battlements. The Stark banner replaced by flayed man over hot tar braziers. We hit from 3 sides, Jon proposed. Glover breaks the Hunter's Gate. Clansmen assault the south wall. Your knights ride the frozen moat to breach the postern. Stannis nodded. While you, through the Godswood. Jon's eyes fixed on looming Weirwood. The old way, thunder grumbled. Not of clouds, but drums on Winterfell's inner rampart. Ramsay Snow strode the wall, pale hair whipping. Squires lit iron basket torches, bathing him in hellish glare. He raised a severed direwolf head, one stolen from Winterfell's crypt, and flung it into the moats where it shattered the ice.
Von tasted bile.
Stannis turned toward his troops. Form lines. Snowflakes danced then, crazed, swirling faster until the air seemed alive with white sparks. Jon looked north. Horizon shimmered blue-green. The aurora again but twisted, colors bleeding violet. From far off came what sounded like horns but colder, harsher, the call of the others. Jon's heart pounded. If the wall had fallen, The war for Winterfell might become a footnote beneath Apocalypse. He swung into saddle, Longclaw shining. "Ride!" he shouted, and the storm swallowed his cry. The brute force of dawn. Glover rams battered Hunter's gate timbers until frozen hinges screamed. Baratheon catapults lobbed stones crusted with pitch. On impact, they burst flame across parapets, flinging Bolton archers into yards below. The clansmen of the hills crawled uphill beneath shields like beetles, axes hooked for scaling walls. Within Godswood's hush, Jon, Dennis, Meege, and 24 silent step bears glided among ancient oaks. Snow-muffled boots, Hearttree's face loomed, bleeding red sap onto roots. Jon paused, laid gloved hand against bark. "For you, father," he whispered. They skirted frozen pool to postern, left ajar by some forgotten kitchen boy's panic. Dennis wedged steel to hold. They entered an overgrown servant's tunnel, torches doused. Darkness smelled of mold, mouse droppings, and fear older than memory. Above, battle thundered. Rams splintering gate, horns bellowing. The ceiling dust drifted onto hair. Stairs rose to the great hall's rear antechamber. Jon crept upward, then froze. Voices. Ramsay's harsh laughter, Jane's weeping, Roose's measured baritone. Through cracked door, he saw the bastard dragging his bride before assembled lords, knife held to her chin. Roose lectured, "A queen must show courage. Display it now." Jon set shoulder to door, smashed through, would split. Meege and Dennis followed roaring. Ramsay's eyes widened. He shoved Jane aside, drew twin blades. Roose's hand went to his sword, but he hesitated, calculating new odds. "Enough!" Jon's voice rang so hard rafters shook. "Release her or lose more than skin." Ramsay licked lips, smiled. Stark pup returns. Too late. The girl's mine, the north mine. He feinted. Jon parried, Longclaw ringing. Ramsay's second blade darted. Dennis caught it on dirk. Meege roared, axe-cleaving table as Fry Lord scrambled away. Ramsay danced back. "You'll have to kill her with me then." He slashed Jane's shoulder. Blood spurted. She screamed. Jon struck Ramsay's wrist. Bone snapped. Knife clattered. Ramsay shrieked, lunged with remaining blade. Longclaw pierced his belly, sliding through silk and leather. Ramsay gasped, eyes wild. As the Valyrian edge burst from back, black with heart's blood steaming. Jon twisted, withdrew. Ramsay staggered into brazier. Flames licked cloak. He toppled. Roose drew at last, but Meege blocked path, axe dripping red from earlier fray. Dennis positioned. Roose weighed odds again, then slashed at Jane, aiming to trade life for hostage. Jon intercepted blade on Longclaw, riposted, cutting Roose's cheek to bone. Roose stepped back, realized he stood alone. Outside hall, horns of Stannis blew inside keep. Fry banners burned. Roose lowered sword. "You kill me, you kill hostage value for your sister in Vale." His cold eyes searched Jon's. "Littlefinger holds her. You need me to trade." Jon's jaw clenched. "I need you as the wall needs cracks." He slashed. Roose raised hilt, but Dennis hamstrung him. Meege's axe split his helm. Lord of the Dreadfort fell. Silence roared. Fire popped. Jon knelt by Jane, pressing cloth to wound. "You're free." She stared, lips trembled. "I'm not Arya. I know." He gathered her. "We'll find safe place." Footsteps. Sarala burst in with Glover men. "Gate's ours," she panted. "Stannis holds yard." But white banners gather north, dead ones. Jon strode to window. Beyond outer curtain, the battlefield glimmered with torch clusters. Stannis's men cheering. But further, towards the King's Road, a wall of shadow advanced, dotted blue. The others marched, choice beneath snowfall. Night collapsed, eerie hush before collision. In the courtyard, Stannis read reports. Jon approached, breath frosting. "The dead come." Stannis scanned ridge. Blue fires bobbed like ghost lanterns. He muttered, "On the day we take Winterfell." He faced Jon. "We hold the castle or we burn inside. Your choice, Prince." Jon looked at broken gates, at daughters of Bear Island hoisting Bolton banners down, at lords cheering first victory. Then he looked north toward spectral flames. He sheathed Longclaw. The wall fell. The war is here. We stand. Trumpets blew. Stannis barked orders. Melt pitch. Raise barricades of whites' corpses to burn. Stack barrels of Mance Raiders dragonglass caches Sam had delivered by Raven months before. Men scrambled, hearts thundering. Above, snow slowed, swirling lazily now, as if world paused to watch. From the corpse of Ramsay Snow crawled faint ember of life. Eyes opened, one charred. He crawled along rushes toward fallen knife. Jane saw, shrieked. Jon turned, strode over, and put boot on Ramsay's wrist. "No more screams," he said, and ended the bastard. The aurora splits. On rampart Sansa Stark appeared, hair loose, cloak streaming. She had ridden with Blackfish through gaps in Fry lines. Now she saw Winterfell retaken at last. She trembled, tears cutting warm tracks on cheeks. Jon mounted stairs 2 at a time, met her halfway. They stared, still as statues, disbelief thawing slow. Then they embraced, fierce, wordless, siblings of ice and sorrow. Below, the heart tree rustled leaves though wind had stilled. Aurora flared overhead, a great green rip, then split, white spear of light stabbing downward into far north hills. A roar like glaciers grinding filled ears. The Night King breached the forest line, riding pale horse wreathed in frost. 10,000 dead screamed silence behind. Jon pulled back from Sansa. "I have to go. I know." She pressed something into his palm. Ned's old gray cloak, mended. "For father." He donned it. In hands of Dustin Smiths, his Stark and Targaryen sigils had been forged together, wolf and dragon intertwined, stitched now upon the cloak's clasp. He descended to yard where men readied for final dawn. Stannis raised Lightbringer, blade glowing faint ember. Melisandre's ruby blazed bright, reflecting in Jon's eyes. She whispered, "Light and shadow bound. The song begins." Jon strapped on dragonglass daggers, mounted his stallion. Dennis rallied knights watch brothers. Meege roared to Mormont shield maidens. Glover spears locked. Stannis formed shield wall anchored by Baratheon knights. The gates of Winterfell, newly captured, creaked open again, this time to spew forth an army not of conquest but survival. Snow swirled in vortex as living met dead beneath wolves' walls. Jon drew Longclaw, feeling something ignite inside, heat thrumming along spine, pulsing into steel. The blade shimmered with pale inner fire, as though awakening to its name. He lifted it high. Across the field, the Night King raised his ice lance in mirror salute. First light of true dawn lanced over eastern edge of sky, gilding Winterfell's towers. 2 kings, living and dead, charged. And somewhere, high beyond clouds, the cry of a dragon echoed, answering the wolf's own howl, promising fire yet to come.